Okay, so good morning, everyone. Today I'm very honored to be joined by Leila Papoli-Yazdi. She is what I would call a true polymath, and that's something I really connect with. She does research in archaeology, has been a professor. From what I read, she's interested in anthropology and gender. Right now, she's also a language partner with us at NaTakallam, as well as being a polyglot. From what I know, she speaks at least Swedish, English, Farsi, and Dari. So yeah, I mean, I went through the resume with lots of research in disaster archaeology, Garbology, but it's not my job to tell you her story. We want to take advantage of this space at NaTakallam to understand her experience of the world firsthand. So Leila, salam, safa avordid.
Salam, thank you for having me. Yes, and I'm happy that I am here and yeah, I can talk with you. And also I'm happy that we have this connection as new forms of connection with the audience and also our students at NaTakallam.
No, well, thank you for lending us some of your time today. So yeah, I guess to break that is sort of like I would like to understand how you got here. I mean, beyond like just listing, okay, I studied this, I
Yes.
work here. How did you end up today in Sweden, from what I understand?
Yes. Yeah, I'm Leila and I'm 47 years old. And I have a PhD in archaeology, as you said, that my field of expertise is archaeology. But archaeology has different branches, and what I do is called contemporary archaeology or the archaeology of recent past. And our concerns and research questions are about the modern world and the material culture, garbage, waste, whatever people produce and use. And I have done, as you said, disaster archaeology. It means that when a city or somewhere is destroyed by an earthquake or flood or other forms of disaster, like it can be cultural disasters like wars, some archaeologists go and then they document the material culture and they try to reconstruct the happenings, and also they may have very, very, very diverse questions about that. Later, I also did archaeology of garbage, as you said. It's also called garbology. So we study the connection or links between poverty and overconsumption and economy. But the material culture that we study is waste. It can be any form of waste, like landfills, or it can be only a garbage bag. So it really depends on that question that we want to find an answer for. And then yes. So it's the things I do now. I'm in Sweden. I was a professor in my country, Iran, but due to all the problems people can imagine, like political pressures on not only me, but also my husband, Omran, who is also an archaeologist. We first moved to Germany in 2010. And there I worked as a professor at Freie University in Berlin. And later we moved again to Iran, but the situation turned so bad that we again moved to Europe, this time to Sweden. So I worked for some years in Gothenburg University, Linnaeus University, Malmö University, and still I am in collaboration with UNESCO Chair on Heritage Futures. But besides, I have my own startup with my husband because we thought that, due to many bureaucratic things and permission for research. So here it seems it's also maybe not easier, I can say, but in some sort more possible if you want to do some independent research to have a startup. So we started this startup, which is called Garbology. It's now, I think there's 6-7 years that I'm living here. And yes, so.
Okay, and you speak Swedish, right?
Yes.
Did you pick up some German as well along the way?
Yes, yeah. But when you learn a language, I always tell my students that when you learn a language, you feel that the other one is becoming weak and bigger. Somehow it's true. Somehow it's true. So you need more practice. And for me, also it's true. So I need more practice to remember words and vocabulary of German language. So I can say, yeah, I learned it. I have a degree in it. It's really hard for me to speak German.
No, I feel you. I always say they go to sleep, the languages. You don't really lose them, but they just go into a really dark part of your brain. And
Yes. You have them somewhere in their storage. So you go and then bring out all the. Yeah.
And now you're also working with NaTakallam, and
Yes.
I mean, it's not something new. I saw you've been teaching for a long time,
Yes.
also languages. Where did that come from? Is that
Yeah.
something you always had a calling for?
Yes. So I started teaching Farsi in Iran to refugees from Afghanistan. I used to live in a city called Mashhad. It's very close to Afghanistan. And from when I was a child, I had many Afghan friends. So it was not something new to us. But when I lost my job as a professor at university, then one of my friends, who is a teacher, told me that I could help her teaching Afghan children. So many of them, they knew Farsi already, so because it was their mother language, but at the same time, they needed a teacher to help them, like writing their homeworks and helping them with grammar and this kind of things. So I started there, and then I continued in Sweden. And actually, I can say that when I started working with NaTakallam, my main motivation was not to lose my mother language. Because here I have my family, we talk Farsi at home. But you know that I have born an immigrant. I was born in France. And I know that you may lose some of the words and concepts and even grammar after a while. Because the things that you are talking about with your family members, they are usually like in a framework. They are um, just some, I can say, few concepts. Sometimes even because they are very close to you, you have invented your own language. So these are the words that you are using in one context, but they don't have the same meaning in the other context. Or sometimes you use slangs or your own family slang or your own dialect. At the same time, you start losing the more complicated words. And after like 10 years, you look back and you see that there are some words that or vocabulary I can't understand anymore. And also there are new concepts that they are like in a country like Iran that the speed of like changes are very high. There are every day you see new words, new vocabulary, even sometimes new grammar adopted by people or even made by people. And then you will lose them after a while. So my first motivation was to keep in track of speaking and learning, teaching Farsi. Because I think that for all of us, learning and teaching, it happens, at the same time. And then I started this. In the beginning, we had few students, but now we have so many students. Yes, from the beginner level to very advanced level. So some of our students are very fluent in Farsi. We read like poetries together, historical texts. And also we have students who are very interested to learn it. So we start from alphabet or from the very, very like beginner level.
Is that something you see, like, is there a sort of pattern of motivation that you see in your students? Because I teach Spanish as well, and most of my students are Germans or Austrians that fell in love with a Colombian or a Mexican, and
Yes.
I need to learn for them. So what are your students' motivations you should learn?
Yes. So like now it's like, I think 5.5 years that I'm teaching Farsi in Exile. And yes, the patterns has changed. In the beginning, we had like a big majority of the people who wanted to learn Farsi. They were academics or they were students of Middle Eastern studies, Near Eastern studies, linguistic, and so on. But now we have a big number of students whose partners speak Farsi or Dari. And it's very interesting because you see now the cultures, they are, I can say, constructing or building a dialogue. Because I remember those like 20 years ago that some people, they had a Farsi speaker partner, but they just talked in English or other languages. So they didn't put pressure on themselves to learn a new language. But now you see that especially people who want to build a family, they want to have children, they start learning Farsi. And at NaTakallam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very cool. And I guess the approach is a bit different. Also, the motivation when you have a reason or someone to learn for,
Yes.
maybe you approach it in a different way. You're not so worried about making everything grammatically perfect, but
Yes.
it's about the communication.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, but very interesting because so people whose partners are Farsi speaker, it can be like from different countries, but I mean, they need love language. They need that level of, layers of language that usually you don't need when you are in an academic context. Yeah, there are some people who are studying like love language or they want to study a romantic language, but like about the people who are Farsi speaker partner is completely different. So one of the things that we I can say discover or learn in the process of teaching in NaTakallam, and you have maybe the same experience, is that we learn that people have different needs when it comes to learning a language. And language is like a very big and cultural, phenomenon. So you can just pick the things that people really like to learn and then start talking about them. And yes.
And in my opinion, is what makes a great teacher, no? Being able to understand what your student needs and
Yes.
just one size fits all. Because everyone can learn grammar like that. That's
Yes.
not nothing special, but how you communicate it, I think is the special thing. Okay, so you mentioned you worked in Iran with refugees, like from Afghanistan, and will confess, like before, like leading up to this interview, I was like deep diving into Iran because I mean I know what we know from like a Western lens sort of media environment and some extra general knowledge, but yeah, we are all. I think especially for Iran, we don't know a lot. Found out, wow, you have many different ethnicities. It's not just
Yes.
Persians. There's
Yes.
also Azerbaijanis. There's that region close to Pakistan with a different ethnicity. There's the Kurds, some small groups. And I wanted to ask you directly, in your opinion, what's something that people who are just surrounded by this Western lens on society, what do we get wrong about Iran, or what don't
Yeah.
we understand?
So one of them you mentioned that when I mean it's not only about Iran. So I think that it's about any country that we are talking about. So for example, if you talk about Norway, so the first thing that comes to mind like is a kind of a stereotype that media and also movies or Hollywood had made about Scandinavia for us. But if you dive deeper, if you talk with people, if you read the literature, you see okay, so even in a country like Finland or Norway, Sweden, there are like diverse groups of people. There are different languages, there are different religions, and they are not always living in peace together. Sometimes they have conflicts. And there is a very long history of all these communication forms that happen among the groups of people living in a place. And it's also completely true about Iran. So we have a very strong stereotype image of Iranian or Persian, if we use this word, that it's also being used in some literature and books. And this one of these stereotypes is like this very homogenized faces of Iranians and also language or religion or ideas. Like about 90 million people are living in that country. There are many other people also outside in diaspora. And not all of them speak Farsi, not all of them are Muslims, not all of them have the same idea. So there is a big diversity. And if you want to know, about this country, the very first thing, yeah, I think it's to learn about the diversity. So one of the things that actually I do in my language sessions is to tell my students about sometimes the roots and also historical roots of some vocabulary and words, because it really helped them to see that, okay, so this word is Turkish, this word is Armenian, this word is Kurdish, the other one is Arabic, so then the other one is Baluchi. So then you have this interesting collection of vocabulary, concepts, words that help you to also understand how these people survived for thousands of years in a place that it's environmentally very hard to manage. One of these things is that they collaborated. with each other, and they could construct many cultural phenomena. And one of them that actually we can discover in these NaTakallam sessions are vocabulary and grammar and words.
Yeah, I mean, Iran is huge. Like it
Yes.
is massive, and 80 million, 90 million. It's a lot of
Yes.
people, and yeah, it's always strikes me it's silly, especially hearing, I don't know, the media or whoever say like the Iranian people want this or the Venezuelan people.
Yes. Yes.
You cannot really speak about one monolith of people, especially when it's that big. And of course, with Iran and some countries, it's particularly aggravated. But it's a problem we have. We forget that just because we call one geographical area a country, it's not a monolith.
Yes.
I had one question, very technical. Is there a difference in the perception or the usage of the word Iran, Persia, or Farsi, Persian? Is
Yes.
there some connotations to the usage of each of them?
Yes, Iran is a very historical word that we use ourselves like for centuries to actually to name our own country. And we had different, I can say, moods of that or during history, but it was the same word that we had like from historical, very historical periods. We have also the word Persian. I can say the use of it is sometimes very controversial. Sometimes it's a group of people like me. My mother language is Farsi, so because of that, I'm called Fars or Persian. Sometimes this word is being used to describe a group of people from Indo-Iranian, a group of immigrants to Iran. Sometimes it's a historical word actually to describe this country without using the word Iran. And it has been actually used by colonizers a lot, by people from outside the country. So Persia, you can find it in many historical texts and literature. Today, like we, as the people of that country, we never use the word Persia, I can say it. But about Farsi and Persian, some people, they say that Farsi is another form of, like the word Farsi is another form of Parsi or Persian. But also there are scholars who say that Farsi, because in Arabic language, they don't have, in many dialects of it, they don't have it. So it's the Arabic form, but like there are other scholars that say even in even in Farsi, word the pe sometimes transforms to fe, like we have it in the word gusfand for sheep, the animal. So there are, I can say, very different ideas about how the words Persian and Farsi are connected, or they have transformed to each other. But now, for the language, Farsi and Parsi, I mean, are being used.
No, it's. I know you take an interest in the history of colonization and the impact it has on today. Like in Latin America, for instance, there's this movement that is starting to call the continent of Latin America a different name that doesn't have ties to necessarily like the Spanish or like the Eurocentric conception of the continents. So yeah, that's why I thought it would be. We just use them interchangeably, and we know there was the name change, and that's something that also puzzled me. Like, why was the official name change from Persia to Iran? And it
Yes.
was sort of a reivindication thing then.
Yes.
Okay, I would like to ask you about disaster archaeology and garbology and how you got interested in this. Like it's very niche, I think. So it's certainly not something. I mean, disaster archaeology makes sense. Studying garbage is something that now seems quite obvious. I mean, it is material culture after all, but it's not something that my brain had thought about before. So how did you end up here?
Yeah, but I should say that archaeologists, like all of archaeologists, they study garbage. So whatever we find in like an archaeological site is usually garbage. So there were people. I mean, if there was a war, yes, you can say that people were, all of them, they were killed. You can say that, yes, we have this settlement and like the flows and then people living in a place or the houses and so on. But if they have left that area, that usually it happened like in the case that, for example, they had environmental issues or there was a drought or flood or earthquake, it was very common because people were less resilient and their houses and so on in their prehistoric and historical times. So you will what they have left are garbage, their waste. It's like when you are moving from one apartment to another apartment. So you collect the things that they are valuable, the things that you like them, the things that are usable. And what are completely left there usually are completely useless, or you don't have a place for them. And then you talk with the other tenants and you say that, "Oh, you want to keep it." Now, if they want to keep it, they keep, but if they don't, so they will discard. So I want to say that if you look at archaeology like more deeply, so you see that the museums are actually, in many cases, the places that we keep the waste and garbage of our ancestors. So whatever that they liked or they thought that these things were worthy enough, they had collected and then they just moved with themselves. But when it comes to modern war, so because we have overconsumption, we have very new forms of garbage that they were absent in the historical and prehistoric times, like plastic. Garbage at a time, like in past, it was not very durable because most of it were completely organic food waste, and we had like pottery and we had metal, and they were you can see that after a while degraded, and then you can find very small pieces of it, or you need archaeological method to analyze them. In the modern times, no, we have this very durable garbage like landfills, plastic, textile, everything. So yes, we use the same methods, but also we use the methods developed by environmental scientists and some other sciences as well.
And I'm guessing there's also a lot of cross-contamination or multidisciplinary work in
Yes.
field, no, I guess with
Yes.
anthropologists, historians.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's like, because of that, I always say that it's always a teamwork. So you cannot do it. Yeah, so there are like some desk work, or you do like some analysis, you can do it by yourself. But in a very large scale project, you need like different disciplines to help you. And then because you want to reconstruct or construct a very big model of garbage making behaviors or consumption behavior. So you need all these people, like even sometimes a psychologist and sociologist, you need to talk with them because like garbage making patterns are sometimes related to the mind of people and the behaviors of them.
Can it also be somehow political?
Sure.
Especially modern garbology or garbage archaeology.
Yes.
Like, in what way do you manage to connect those dimensions?
Waste is very political, is much more political than we think. And then we should know that most of the countries in the global north, they export their garbage to other countries, to the global south. So, and then many people from the global north sometimes lecture us, your countries are dirty and so on. But, oh yeah, but it's your garbage that you are exporting to our countries. You know, the fact is that they have even transformed some of the countries or cities into very big landfills of themselves. Like we have new phenomena, modern phenomena. It is called garbage cities. So like you have in Ghana, a very big city made of garbage exported to Ghana from global north. Mostly it's made of e-waste, very toxic. So very poor people live there. We have in India, like multiple garbage cities. We have in many countries. But now I can say it is like even more clear and obvious that we have some new garbage cities developing even in the global north. So they are like you have classes of people, statuses of people, they are consuming that much that even they cannot even export it enough. They are keeping in the waste management system, and even now in Sweden we have, like I can say, and I am writing a book about it, but it's like you see step by step, gradually the emergence of these garbage cities here.
So it's a form of the imperialism. It's a form of colonialism.
Yes.
Mutates over time.
Yes, yes. So for years, they captured like cities and countries like physically. So they had their own, they do it even now. So they have their armies and then invading others countries and so on. But at the same time, now they have another forms of colonialism. And for example, in Chile now you have these very big landfills made of textile, like fast fashion, keep it in their own countries, but they just export it to other countries. And because they are being discarded in poor areas, impoverished areas, the scholars or even activists, they realize that such a thing is happening after sometimes years. And sometimes it's very late to do anything, because if you move this thing, like we have it in Ghana now, then you are consummating another place as well. So it's a big one of the things that they call wicked problems. So wicked problems, this is a terminology made by some scholars, sociologists, and environmental scientists that actually describes some of the problems we have in modern world that they seem unsolvable. You cannot solve them easily. And the problem of waste is such a thing now.
Yeah, the problem is we got here at all. I mean, we don't seem to be slowing down, which is even more worrying.
Yes.
Okay, shifting onto disaster archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're related, but also different in a sort of
Yes.
way. Did you get interested in that in Iran already? I know there's a lot of earthquakes in Iran.
Yes. So we started this, like not only me, but my colleagues and I in 2003 after a city called Bam in southeastern Iran was completely destroyed after a dramatic earthquake in 2003. And we did interviewed like more than 5,000 individuals and survivors. 8 years. We excavated 6 houses. We had lots of information from BAM, and my PhD is about BAM, and a big part of all my studies. And then it was the first time that actually we could write things in English and publish them in like international journals. So yes, but now actually it's years that I could not do it in Iran because of like all the problems like permissions, and it's that like the nationalist archaeology of Iran, they don't like this kind of archaeologies, because these methods actually they are revealing or highlighting the dark side of a culture or civilization or a nationist or whatsoever, and they don't like it because nationalist archaeology is always just about like beautiful things or glorious past or the things you are very proud of. I am but very proud of people of BAM that at a time I can say the majority of scholars, they believed that their city would be abandoned. It was really hard to live in that city anymore. There was like the watering system, the waste management system, all of the systems you can think, they were completely destroyed. But they reconstructed the city and they survived. So I'm proud of that. I'm very much proud. Yes.
So also archaeology, I mean, obviously that's something we don't think about. Who is funding the archaeologists? And if in different situations, you probably want to exalt this glorious past to keep up the myth of the nation, and some things you'd rather keep underground, probably. So this leads me again, the harder questions is like, I know you're considered a scholar at risk, and you left Iran. I mean, you said more than 10 years ago. So how did this happen? Like, was there a particular view, or was it in general pressure that you were feeling in the, I guess, not only academic environment, but in general? Like, what happened that you had to leave, if you're comfortable speaking about?
Yeah, no, there is no problem. I want to say, like, internationally, I am one member of a very big movement of archaeologists that it started in 90s, and then there is a book. It is called The Archaeology of Us. So these archaeologists like Brian Schiffer and Richard Gold, they changed the perspective of archaeology to study the other, from the other to us. And then the question is that who is us? Us, it can be like the modern people, but I'm indigenous to Iran. I am a person who's like my ancestors were in Western Asia for like such a long time. As an indigenous person, what's this us? And then how I can define it. And, there are many more, I can say, epistemological question about it. And this was like from a very young age. These were like the question I asked. I have this interest to tell the story of the people I was talking about, or I was excavating their garbage or material culture. So it was being very much disliked by by a big group of archaeologists, not only in Iran but also outside Iran, that they are being funded by governments mostly. And many of them, I don't want to generalize it, there are many, many archaeologists who are resisting this. But you see now what is happening now in British Museum. They are removing the heritage of Palestine from the exhibition. And you see that they want to rewrite the history in a way that they want to do that, or the political interest actually dictate to write the history like this. And then this very big movement that I see myself as a part of it, we are always resisting it. We are talking about people whose heritage and history are being hidden or being concealed or being ignored. So I lost my projects, I lost my job. So there was lots of, I can say even unusual pressure for an archaeologist. And also, like you say, defamation. And then there were rumors about me. I didn't know what was going on. Some of them was actually funny. I have collected some of them. Maybe one day I can publish them, as this process. Questioning and like these kind of things. So the thing that actually happened was that we had this pressure in our house. My husband also was under pressure, not because of me, because he is also one member of this movement, and my friends as well, and my son. And then we couldn't like do anything at the time. So really hard. And I can say that like 16, 17 years ago, it was not like today. So at the time, if you were fired from an university in Iran, you were accused, oh, you were not a good teacher, you had done something or then this or that. But today you see that, okay, so many people are more aware of what's going on behind the curtains of universities or academia in these kind of countries. Yes.
And as you lived in different countries, how was that experience with other academics? Like, yeah, I'm wondering, how did they approach you, or how was the environment knowing that you had gone through this situation? And also in general, like the displaced experience. I wonder how that was for you in these years, and whether it has changed with time and with the new events also in Iran.
So I have talked about it in my last book, A New Garbology Manifesto, that when I actually immigrated to Europe, one of the things that happened is that many of my European archaeologists, they didn't want to work with me. So because they have projects in Iran, they have projects in the Western Asia. So they don't want to work. Like I was writing a book with an archaeologist from some European countries, and then they actually canceled the contract. They didn't tell me that okay, so I have a project in Iran also, but they said, okay, I don't have time, or like this topic is not my interest anymore. But the things that happened, it was like after some months, I got the news that they were working in Iran. And it's the complexity of archaeology and many, not only archaeology, but many social sciences, or I can say a field of expertise, that people need a context, need a geographical context to work in. And then they didn't want to lose their contracts, it's the thing. So I was very much under pressure in the beginning. And I had, for myself, I had two ways. I had changed my direction from archaeology to like another discipline which is close to archaeology, like history or sociology and so on. And for a while I did this. I did historical archaeology for like 1-2 years. But one day, one of my colleagues, he came into my office and said that, okay, but why aren't you doing garbology here in Europe? And this was a very big question because till that day, I was taught that I must work on Iran. And that day, I thought that what is more important for me, archaeology or as a discipline or Iranian studies, for example. Then I decided to change my direction, not from the discipline, but from the topic. Like I was doing Garbology in Iran, I decided to do it in Europe. So now I'm doing Garbology here. And my topic has been always subaltern, impoverished people. So no matter they are living in Iran or Afghanistan or in Venezuela or in the States or here. So I do it wherever I feel that I can do something for poor people.
And you think, and this is something I read also in the notes, that there's this connection also between the experience of of displacement and imperialism and colonialism. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that link.
Displacement, yes. So I think that when you are living with your family and friends, even if you study colonialism, you are not this much, witnessing it. When you are out, you are feeling it. When you are in a country like Iran, you are like any other person. So your face, and you don't, even I didn't know, I have read that we are called brown, but I was not even aware that it
No, I feel you. I
the
feel you.
first time, like I was in a conference and that person was like an anti-imperialist person. She was talking about racism and then people suffering. And then she just pointed at me and they said, okay, like scholars like Leila that are brown. Am I brown? I was thinking. And then I said, oh, what is happening?
No.
You feel you have a new definition of yourself.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know in Spanish, but in Farsi, we don't have this word. We don't use this word for
Yeah.
it's very new.
No, I mean, of course, in Latin America, we had it played a big part of in our history, like racial division. So we have the vocabulary. It reminded me of a story because I live in Pisa right now, and I had a friend from a Kurdish friend, and I had just met her and she arrived, and we were like just walking on the street at night, and the police came. I mean, they just passed, and I was like, oh, I always get a bit nervous when when the police passes because two brown people, and she was like, wait, where? It's us, and it's just this thing like we're taught to feel different. I had been here for like a couple of years already, so you appropriate this view that the other imposes on you, be it ideological or be it like just practical. You understand that this is how society perceives you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm not displaced for political or economic reasons, but you do live the experience of someone who's away, and when you go back, it's like, wow, I'm just someone else, and sometimes that is comforting. But of course, there are many sides to it. Okay. I wanted to ask you about NaTakallam. Like, how long have you been teaching at NaTakallam?
I think it started 2021. So now and it was like February, March. So it's now
Around 5 years.
Yes, yeah.
Uh-huh. And how was it at the start? I mean, I started working with them recently. So have you
Yes.
noticed the company growing, changing?
Yeah. So we had lots of ups and downs during these years. Yeah. So in the beginning, that I'm actually after October 7th. So you see that we had to decide many things that even we didn't have any idea about it like in the past, because now when you are teaching people from, Western countries and even from Middle East and so on, so you should see their opinions. And then as a teacher, you are not it's not very ethical to ask directly. So
Yeah.
I think that there were many things sometimes. And then we had from our colleagues that they had in our meetings that if you feel uncomfortable, just report it and so on. Fortunately, it doesn't happen to me, but I know that there are some colleagues that they have felt, very uncomfortable with some of the ideas, and and there were other things as well. So as I told you that we had few students, especially for Farsi, very, very few. It's growing, so sometimes we don't have time. Yes.
And in terms of your relationship with your students, will they ask you about like your opinion on current events on Iran?
Yeah, sure. And then, like, even when this massacre started to happening in Iran, I had many different, and also after Israel attacked Iran, I had many emails from the people who had studied with us, but I mean, they have completed their studies or they did not want to continue, and then they were asking about my family, myself. Yeah, we have actually, I can say that NaTakallam builds a connection and dialogue. So with people from different cultures. And sometimes it's very interesting. For example, I had a student that they spoke two Native American languages, and it was very interesting. They were a Native American, and then so I had never talked with a person whose like mother languages are Native American languages. And then you are in process of learning as well. So we learn and teach. So we build a dialogue, I think. And this is not like the regular form of teaching that you go in a class and teach and then everything is finished. Because we are talking about culture. So from the very beginning of a session with a student, that the very first question is that why did you choose to learn Farsi or another language? So you start this kind of dialogue. And yeah, they ask me, and many of them because they read about us, they Google us. I think that many of them. So yes.
Yeah, I think also the kind of person that ends up learning at NaTakallam already in a way is, I guess, inspired by the social aspect of it. So I guess it's not likely that you'll encounter like big issues in that way. But it is something that I've heard expressed by many language partners, this openness and this space for communication, this look for dialogue rather than the misportrayal. And actually, I was wondering, how do you think the current events in Iran are being portrayed in the media? Do you see like a big polarization, at least in Sweden or whatever you consume?
Actually, coming back to the first questions that you asked me, I think that one of the things that again we are seeing is like homogenization of the ideas of people in Iran. I, as an Iranian, I am witnessing, reading, I'm talking with people from my own country, and still I don't know the idea of majority. And I think that a person or a media who's speaking about, about people are doing this, people are doing that, people believe in this, they are hiding something or they are misleading people. Because in a country that for years, I mean, they have censored media, they have, filtered internet. Many people, they don't have access to Instagram or social media because of this. It's not very easy to comprehend, the idea of people. And many people also still they are concealing their ideas because they are in fear of being arrested or losing their jobs, or they sometimes they privilege or anything. Yeah, for us it's really hard. I think the only thing that we can be sure about is that now the majority of people are against the state. And when I don't use the word government, I don't want to use like the Islamic regime. I want to use the word state, which is bigger than all of this. And I think that we will see big changes. But at the same time, I feel that because we are in the, how we can say, in the on the way to see these changes, still there are many voices coming, and then we see that maybe in the next day they change their idea, the other one they are saying another thing. It's good to hear all of them and to analyze them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm very, very, very concerned about colonialism and imperialism. So from the last century, whenever there is a big movement made by Iranians against colonialism and their estates and dictatorship, you see a resistance, this coup after coup, this massacre after massacre, and always you see the hands of colonialism behind it. So I'm very much concerned about this. Actually, I believe in my people. I know that they are practicing many things. They are very angry, but at the same time, they are trying to raise their voices in a very, very dark situation.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, I guess, for you because it should be for everyone. Like either you're like this Ayatollah loving, like yeah, or you are like go America, 4th of July fireworks.
Yeah.
Two things can be bad at the same time. It's just really frustrating, especially in mainstream media, seeing that there's no space for this sort of nuance.
Yes.
And
And there
I
are
agree.
thousands of people in between these two, and there are thousands and thousands, and you don't hear their voices because media they like extremism. They really love it. They are always talking about like fundamentalism and extremism and fascism, and they don't want to see like this, the stories going on in between. They want to ignore it. And now we have like thousands and thousands of people who were killed brutally last month. And one of the things that we need is to highlight their stories as people. They are not numbers. And then I'm very glad that many people now, social media, they are archiving the names of these people. They are showing us another aspect of their lives. They were workers, they were teachers, they were housewives, they were drivers. I mean, they had an identity. And then it is the thing that actually maybe we outside can do. We can give these numbers a name, a voice, because they wanted to do that. And because of that, they were killed. So maybe we can continue this. Yes. So you see that unfortunately from the media, these voices, the voices of people who actually sacrificed their lives are completely absent.
Yeah, I guess they want the headlines. They want to stir this polarization because it works.
Yeah, it's good.
And no, I encourage and I think it's important to listen to people and not people with very different experiences. And you will ask 5 different Iranians, you will have 5 different opinions.
Yes.
So that's how we should inform ourselves, in my opinion. And actually, to finalize a bit, don't want to take too much of your time, but I could speak to you for hours.
Yeah, that was
It's
very
really fun. Yeah, it touches on what you just said. Like, what would you say to someone who is feeling hopeless but wants to support Iranian communities, the people of Iran in these moments? How do you think we could support you best?
I think that's one of the things that happened during the last more or less 20 years is that like the voices of some activists are that much loud that the voices of other people have been ignored. Like about people outside Iran. So you have always the voices of those who have PhDs, they are working in big institutes, in academia, but we don't know anything about the lives of those like worker Iranians who moved to, Europe or other countries because they were under economic pressure. And there are these big numbers of them now outside Iran. Sometimes, media is obsessed with some, as I told, stereotypes. And the stereotype of educated Iranian is a big, big stereotype. It is the main responsible that has actually made many people neglected. There are refugees living in camps. There are Iranians, they don't have money. There are students that their connections now with Iran is cut. And because of that, they don't have jobs, they don't have money. Part of their economy was based on the money coming from Iran by their parents or family members and so on. There are many people desperate. And the thing that we are seeing in media is only like that educated middle class Iranian talking about power. But if even you gain power and the state, what about these many people that they are loving this in this miserable situation? So coming back to your question, I think one of the things that we can do even in NaTakallam that they have, I mean, we have an experience about it, like for Gaza and Lebanon and so on, is to identify these people or the people who want to work with us or the people who are somewhere in distress and to help them in a way, you know, because in this kind of situation, and I think that about Venezuela, about many other countries, it's the same scenario that you only hear the voices of people who are trying to gain power, and then all other people are being neglected.
Yeah, that is a great insight. Most people, I guess, in political science, you think of actors, no, and they have these goals, but some people just live through the conditions, and they are who we need to listen to as well. Okay, I forgot to ask you, but really quickly, you also work with gender a lot.
Yeah.
How do you integrate this into your research?
Yeah, because I mean, it's not like I don't know anything about gender studies. I should always specify this because it sometimes makes some problems. As I said, we are a team, always working as a team. And the thing that I have done, because I do like disaster archaeology or garbology, my main goal is to approach the lives of poor people. What I have done is to start feminine poverty. It's not like, and in our team, we have a colleague, Maryam Dejamkhoui. Now she's in Iran, and she's like a scholar doing gender archaeology. She's a pioneer figure in this field. And also the field archaeologists of the group, my husband Omran Karajian, they are doing this. The thing I do is to analyze the poverty of like we didn't only focus on women, but also I can say different genders. But the main thing that I did was the poverty of women and the process that they become poorer and poorer during the last century.
And exploring that through archaeology.
Yes, yes, like their properties and ownership and this kind of.
Okay, very, very final question, lightning question.
No, don't put pressure on yourself. Yes.
I think it's a funny one. Maybe you get asked this a lot. Like, what do you think archaeologists in 50 or 100 years are going to find from today that is going to define, I guess, this moment in time?
Yeah, maybe many plastic body.
Plastic.
So
The
maybe have
plastic
lots
age.
of memes. Yeah, lots of memes. But part of it is meme, part of it's funny, but the other part is that then what should we do? How we can develop our techniques. But it's one part. The other thing is that I think like this conflict between governmental and non-governmental archaeologists, like the movements that indigenous archaeologists or anti-fascist archaeologists are they are leading and their own initiatives, it will be bigger and bigger and bigger. So we will have very, very rich archaeologists working for government, and we will have some other archaeologists that they are like in everyday resistance and
Wow.
for survival. So we'll have it. See, archaeology, the discipline can survive. I think that in the next decades, it has to change a big part of it has to accept change. And then we should be with people or against people. As you see that it has started. And now, for example, we have a big association of archaeologists called EAA, European Association of Archaeologists, and there is a very big conflict in it over Palestine and Palestinian heritage. And then many archaeologists decided to leave the association. So you see that it's ongoing. And then we should decide who was and is this us and whose heritage is this. So It's not an easy task. I mean, many people see us as like Indiana Jones, but at the same time, we have to for many things.
I mean, so much drama. Like we don't think of this, but it is a political discipline, and there's power everywhere in these dynamics. I mean, if you have background in sociology, it is fascinating to hear about. And anywhere you dig, you'll find these sort of stories. All right. Well, thank you very much. Really, really a pleasure. I will probably, if I ever get to Farsi, like you're in the top of the list for my teachers. I'd love to
Thank you.
try it out. So thank you very much, and yeah, I hope we speak soon again.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.